I've long disapproved intensely of the um, failure of our country to do the honourable thing and to keep our word to the many Afghans who put their lives on the line for British soldiers and for uh, Britain in Afghanistan. And Dominic Raab was sunning himself in Crete. In my mind, it's in Chania on the beach. I don't know whether he was or not, but it's it's a shocking piece of history, and I don't think when history is fully written, Britain will look terribly good. And today there's a story of a man who was once tipped for the very top, a decorated Royal Marine, commander of Britain's elite forces, a diplomat in uniform, a man praised for strategic brilliance and operational mettle, and yet General Sir Gwyn Jenkins now finds himself in the eye of multiple media storms, some of his own making, others suspiciously orchestrated by rivals who regard his ascent perhaps as inconvenient, if not dangerous. This is not merely a tale of a career gone awry. It's a story about military honour, political betrayal, institutional cowardice, and perhaps something darker, the deliberate silencing of inconvenient witnesses to protect reputations, not lives. So, beginning in Afghanistan, where the British Special Forces conducted covert missions, often in partnership with Afghan elite units known as Triples, CF333 and ATF 444. These were men trained, funded, and directed by the UK, and crucially by the very officers now under scrutiny in Britain's ongoing inquiry into alleged crimes by the SAS. Jenkins, then leading UK Special Forces, was reportedly made aware of credible evidence of extrajudicial killings, of killing children, of handcuffing children, but rather than and of planting evidence, but rather than refer the material to military police, he placed it in a safe, a literal safe. Testimony now suggests the killing of detainees continued, and that's deplorable and abhorrent. Fast forward to the fall of Kabul in 2021, and those same Afghan commandos, British trained, British led, and often more trusted than our NATO allies, applied for asylum under the UK's Afghan relocations and assistance policy, and many had photos with Jenkins, and many had risked their lives repeatedly for the Union flag, and yet they were blocked, rejected by caseworkers, reportedly lent on by another Special Forces officer handpicked by Jenkins himself. And the veto came not from impartial assessors, but from those who had every reason to avoid these men arriving in Britain and potentially being called to testify about the operations that they had witnessed. In other words, the allegation is that these people were involved in trying to silence Afghans who might testify against them. At least 5 were killed by the Taliban after rejection, others imprisoned or tortured. Veterans Minister Johnny Mercer described the UKSF's role in the rejections as a significant conflict of interest. Former prosecutor Bruce Holder, KC, said the only explanation was the government's desire to suppress evidence that would embarrass the Special Forces. So what are we left with? A senior officer who sat on allegations of unlawful killings, who then allegedly oversaw a campaign to deny safe haven to witnesses, and who, despite this, was appointed National Security Advisor, only for that appointment to be quietly reversed by Keir Starmer's team months later. Now we enter the murky world of Whitehall infighting. Jenkins, a Royal Marine, is not part of the Army's oh boy network. His meteoric rise from commanding the SBS to Deputy National Security Advisor to General earned him admiration, but also clearly enemies, and particularly among factions in the Army and the Rifles Regiment, long known for their grip on MOD promotions. The Times has run what looks like a coordinated campaign against him. Anonymous briefings about national security incident calls him to take the fall for events others oversaw, whispered claims of disloyalty or poor judgment, but in truth, Jenkins may simply be too effective. He was reportedly Sunak's first choice for the UK's most senior security role. He was leading trilateral defence negotiations with Norway and Germany, and he was the first Royal Marine ever considered for First Sea Lord. His enemies are not afraid of his failures, they fear his success. The question now is not simply whether General Jenkins should lead the Royal Navy or the UK's security apparatus, it's whether Britain can afford to let internal rivalries, institutional cowardice, and an allergy to accountability rob the country of a competent, if controversial, leader. But burying the truth about war crimes and sidelining those who might expose them, that dishonours our allies, that dishonours us, and we downgrade our own democracy. If this is what victory looks like, and if this man is linked with that genuinely, it's very depressing that somebody who can have such a fantastic and star-studded career could be brought down by such apparent treachery, and that this could have such far-reaching effect. It's deeply disturbing. The whole Afghan refugee issue is something which I've gone on about on a number of occasions. I'm sorry to keep banging on about the same stories, and I hope the sort of the stories about this Jenkins fellow are wrong, but it would be disturbing. It would be disturbing, and there is the story now turning up on the front page of quite a lot of newspapers this evening, and it's there. It's there, at least allegedly, apparently, possibly. It's as alleged as indeed the case which is going through the investigation at the moment, the inquiry at the moment, and names aren't being given, so I suppose it's not got to the point where there's criminal charges, but criminal charges I'm sure will follow, and I think we have a duty. This has gone on for too long. This has gone on for too long, and we have behaved shamefully. I think we behaved particularly shamefully towards those allies and those individuals who offered us help, and we haven't done anything about that. And pursuing people who may have committed crimes in Afghanistan is not helping those people who are left in Afghanistan to fend for themselves, having sacrificed their freedom and their security because of their trust in this fiction that my word is my bond, that a British promise is something that we keep.